Hello, we're about to go on a journey across time. My name is Jackson, and I'm your guide across the major battles in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Our story begins in February 1945, the battle in the Valkyrie. Captain America had to stop the Red Skull and Hydra from using weapons powered by the Tesseract to destroy the world. But as soon as Red Skull picked it up, the energy of the Tesseract transported him to a planet called Vormir. Captain America knew he had to stop the plane, so he crashed it into the Arctic. The world believed him to be dead, but the super soldier serum in his blood kept him alive, and he woke up nearly 70 years later. 64 years later, after escaping captivity, Tony Stark shut down his company's weapons division in favor of creating suits of armor like the one he used to escape his captors, the Iron Man. But his second-in-command, Obadiah Stane, wanted to continue making weapons and built his own armor, leaving Stark to fight him in L.A., ending with Stane falling into the Stark arc reactor, which exploded and killed him. 6 months later, after being banished to Earth and later proving himself to return, Thor is forced to fight his adoptive brother Loki to stop him from taking over the Nine Realms. The battle culminates in Thor destroying the Bifrost portal, and Loki lets himself fall into a black hole. 2 years later, Loki goes to New York and launches an attack with the Chitauri army. The Avengers arrive to stop the invasion, ending with Stark using a nuclear missile aimed for New York to destroy the Chitauri by going into the portal and sending it, which succeeded. The Avengers captured Loki, and Thor takes him back to Asgard to stand trial for his crimes. 2 years later, after realizing that S.H.I.E.L.D. was infiltrated by Hydra years ago and that Project Insight was to eliminate any and all threats to Hydra, Captain Rogers is forced to fight his friend Bucky Barnes, who he thought was killed in action, but really became a brainwashed Hydra assassin called the Winter Soldier, while trying to replace the chips that controlled Project Insight. As a result, the helicarriers destroyed themselves, and Alexander Pierce is shot and killed by Nick Fury. Rogers is shot during the fight, and Bucky, whose memories have partially come back, saves him by pulling him back to the shore. 7 months later, after realizing the orb they try to sell actually contained an Infinity Stone, a group of 5 outcasts called the Guardians of the Galaxy teams up with smugglers called the Ravengers to defend Xandar from great fanatic Ronan the Accuser, who plans to use the stone to destroy Xandar. The Xandarian defense group, known as the Nova Corps, join in to help to prevent Ronan's ship from touching the surface. Ronan eventually destroys the shield the Nova Corps built with their ships, killing all pilots, while Gamora's adoptive sister Nebula escapes by slicing off her hand and hijacking a Ravager ship. In all the chaos, Ronan sends his ship into a free fall to Xandar's surface, and Groot sacrifices himself by forming a cocoon to protect himself and his friends, killing him in the process. On Xandar's surface, Ronan's Warhammer, which houses the stone, is destroyed, and Star-Lord grabs the stone, and with the help of his surviving teammates, Gamora, Drax, and Rocket grab a hold of each other to control the power and send the energy towards Ronan, which overloads and kills him. 2 months later, after reuniting with his father Ego, Star-Lord learns that Ego plans to use him to destroy the universe, leading to the Guardians of the Galaxy to fight him, with Groot trying to plant a bomb in the tree and the Guardians fighting on the outside. Star-Lord keeps his father busy while Baby Groot plants an atomic bomb into Ego's core, which blows up and kills Ego. While Star-Lord is left on the planet, Yondu Udapta sweeps in and rescues him from the destruction and gives Star-Lord the last spacesuit, allowing himself to suffocate in space. 7 months later, Ultron, who's meant to be a global peacekeeping AI created by Stark, goes rogue, Hell-bent on causing mass extinction, plans to use Novigrad, the capital of Sokovia, by using vibranium to raise the city, then drop it from a specific height to wipe out humanity. What's left of S.H.I.E.L.D. evacuates the citizens. The Avengers fight Ultron and his army. During the battle, Pietro Maximoff is shot to death by Ultron, so his twin sister Wanda rips out the core of Ultron's main body. Novigrad is destroyed in a freefall by Stark and Thor, while Vision kills Ultron's last body, ending his threat for good. Over a year later, after disagreements about government oversight, the Avengers splits into two factions, one by Tony Stark, who prefers oversight, and one by Rogers, who prefers freedom. The disagreement leads to a huge fight, which ends with only Rogers and Barnes escaping to find the mastermind behind the plot to fracture the Avengers, after Black Widow holds back an ally to let them escape. Stark gives chase, and Vision tries to stop Falcon, who evades, and the beam is hit by War Machine, who free falls and crashes. He survives the fall, but is left paralyzed from the waist down. The Mastermind is revealed to be Helmut Zemo, a Sokovian who lost his entire family during the Battle of Sokovia, who reveals that Barnes killed Stark's parents years earlier and Rogers kept this a secret. Enraged, Stark fights both Rogers and Barnes. Earns in an abandoned Hydra facility. T'Challa captures Zemo after learning that he was his father's real killer and pinned the blame on Bucky. And Rogers eventually uses his shield to disable Tony's arc reactor, and Stark leaves with an injured Barnes, but leaves his shield behind, effectively going on the run from the U.S. government for not supporting the Sokovia Accords. 2 weeks later, having thought to be dead, T'Challa returns to Wakanda to stop his cousin Killmonger from using Wakandan weaponry to help black people around the world fight their oppressors. An all-out fight breaks out while T'Challa's friend, Everett K. Ross, remotely pilots a Wakandan ship in his sister Shuri's lab to shoot down all the ships with the weapons on board. But the planes eventually take notice and try and shoot down Ross to try and stop him. Shuri attacks he managed to overpower Killmonger, but he gains the upper hand, leading to T'Challa to tackle him, and both free fall into the vibranium mine, and leading to a battle for the fate of Wakanda and the world, with T'Challa wanting to promote peace, Killmonger wanting to support war and to fight oppression. The Jabari tribe soon joins to help defeat the Border tribe, while Ross manages to destroy every Wakandan ship in the air, including his own. Outnumbered in strength, the Border tribe stands down, and back in the mine, T'Challa gains the upper hand and stabs Killmonger in the heart. T'Challa then takes Killmonger to see a Wakandan sunset, which is described to be among the most beautiful. He then offers to help heal his cousin, who refuses, choosing to die a free man.
Appalachian sunrise meets my skin. Even with my eyes still closed, I can feel it coming in. Golden, golden, I'll follow only golden, 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 golden things. Mountain laurel high fives for miles in spring. Rainbow trout and a hummingbird wing. Walk up the river by my son. Feet step over splinters of the moon. Golden, I'll follow only golden, golden, golden things. Gold birds, gold string, gold words, gold anything, golden. I follow only golden, golden, golden things, golden. I follow only golden, golden, golden things.
Un, deux, 3, 4. Salut, je suis un espadon. J'ai perdu mon téléphone par le champ de tournesol, où il devient un champignon. Je m'inquiète pour tout le monde. Chaque personne et chaque espadon qui ne peut pas savourer. Je vois par coup du téléphone. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh,
I've been up Mount Washington a lot of times in my life because there's actually you can drive up it and you can take a train up it. But I'd always wanted to hike it. So kind of as a distraction, my mom went with me and we climbed up Tuckerman's Ravine. And that was my first hike, and that was in 2014, I believe.
I started hiking in March of 2020 at the start of the pandemic. Ben asked me to go hiking with him, and it was Sugarloaf Mountain in Maine. It was snowy, I had snowshoes on, I had very little experience, and I thought I was going to die.
Well, I worked for a man whose name was Richard, and he was a hiker who had just about finished the 48 peaks in the White Mountains. And one day he asked me if I wanted to go with him, and I went with him and I was hooked.
What hikes have I done so far? Oh my goodness. So I started off, I did a lot in the Whites, and then I did all the 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. There's 48 of them. And then I ended up doing all the 4,000 footers in New England. So that's 67. And after that, I really got into winter hiking. So I've done all the Whites or all the presidentials in the winter.
I've done 33 hikes in Maine and New Hampshire.
Oh, I don't know. I did all the 48 peaks in New Hampshire. I did a few in Vermont. But you take something like Mount Washington and Mount Lafayette. I've done them dozens of times each, probably. So
above tree line, I would say, I always tell people about hiking, the greatest sound is nothing. It's one of my favorite sounds. And I think it's really hard to understand what that means unless you've been above tree line. When it's 5 o'clock in the morning and there's nobody there, and you stand and you break tree line for the first time, you kind of can see everything. And you really have this very peaceful feeling. Because not only can you look at kind of the beauty of the mountains, you can look at kind of all the land around you. But there's this kind of gentle, like, especially if the wind's not strong, there's kind of this gentle, almost like a hymn in the air. And it's really hard to describe what it is, but I always said that's like the sound of nothing. So being above tree line, you just kind of feel free. You kind of feel like everything else around you is just not that important.
Tree line is very open and vast, and it feels like you can see for miles and miles. It's extremely peaceful when you get above tree line, and you just kind of realize how small you are in the world when you are standing and looking out all around you.
And then all of a sudden there's just no more trees. And there's rocks, but there's tundra stuff. And it's like what you find up in the, above the Arctic Circle. Lichens and mosses and little plants that grow, and the wind is always blowing.
My favorite part about hiking is that after every hike that I do, I feel like I can push myself to new mental and physical limits. I reach a threshold when I'm hiking and I just kind of feel like I'm done, but there's always more to finish. And Ben always says, you're never as close as you think you are, you're never as far as you think you are. But once I'm done, I feel like it carries the mental and physical perseverance that I practice. It feels like it carries over into other aspects of my personal and professional life.
For me, a lot of people say it's exercise for your body. I usually say it's exercise for my mind. It's a place that I can kind of freely think. Whenever I've had my most challenging days or moments, hiking usually has always followed that, because it's a way to kind of free my mind of all those other strains or challenges that might be going on in my life.
And whenever I got to a peak, I would call my mother. She was still alive, and we would have a little conversation. So it was just me and her sitting on top of a mountain. She asked me what I could see, and that was the favorite part. And just the feeling that you got to the top. You got to the top of another hill, and it was a good feeling.
my favorite place to go. You're at the end of my favorite road. Above the rest, you're the best I know. You are my favorite shade of rose, a flower bed on my favorite stones. I love the ground where your roots have grown. You're my favorite place. You are my favorite kind of glow. You radiate my favorite tone. You shed a light that guides me home to my favorite